Here on WKYC's Facebook Live alongside Jimmy Donovan. I'm Dave DiNatale. And Jimmy, we talked a little later last evening than we normally do. If we had stayed on about 5 more minutes, we probably would have gotten the word. The big story last night that came out courtesy of ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski involving the Cavaliers. They had an emotional team meeting before leaving for San Antonio today to play the Spurs tonight. We'll get to that in a little bit. And in that meeting, amongst other things, fingers were pointed at Kevin Love, questioning, how sick was he? Was he really too sick to play Saturday in the loss to OKC? Was he really too sick to be at practice on Sunday? And this kind of stuff, really, when you're having a bad time as a team, when you're in a bad way, this kind of stuff comes out. And I guess it's concerning on a lot of levels.
It is, but I would begin this way with you, and that is when Kevin Love was in Minnesota, and he was the franchise guy for the Timberwolves. He was the face of the organization. There was that, there was that hunger inside of him that he wanted to be part of an elite team, and of course that made everything move. Incidentally, Andrew Wiggins had 40 points last night in a game for the Timberwolves, and we moved Andrew Wiggins. Yeah. We moved heaven and earth to get Kevin Love to be part of our big three of LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. But I wonder if you took a pulse check on Kevin Love right now, having gone through a championship year, where he won the championship, and then not winning it last year, and the year before that losing in the NBA Finals, but being in the NBA Finals 3 times. I wonder if really he is a happy guy playing for the Cavaliers right now, because this isn't the first time that he has been called out. And is he the right fit here? Is he the right guy on the team? Should they move him? Did they give up on Wiggins and bring in Kevin Love, and it really hasn't worked out the way they wanted? I would be interested to get his true gut feelings about how much of a Cavalier he is right now.
Yeah, he keeps things. I always describe Kevin as being in a bubble. He's very. He marches to the beat of his own drum. He doesn't mean he'll answer all your questions when you talk to him. But he doesn't seem to let things bother him too much. When the drama happens, he just seems to be, oblivious to it. When trade, because you're right, every offseason or every trade deadline, and we had it this offseason with the Paul George stuff, Kevin Love's name is involved.
Right. That's right.
It's a rite of passage. But I wonder if this one is going to be the straw that breaks his back a little bit, because I don't know if there's anything tougher for a professional than to have your integrity questioned and your toughness questioned, and by a team that, oh, by the way, still gave up 148 points without you.
Yeah. And, Dino, again, I'm hearing too much from Isaiah Thomas in all of this, and him being a big voice in a meeting like that, where this guy still has the fruit fresh from his welcome wagon basket, to come to the Cavaliers, and suddenly, he's going to become a commanding force in the Cavaliers. First of all, his play has not told me that he has that role yet, and just his longevity or the lack thereof it doesn't have that either. I just don't understand. Sometimes, the loudest voice is the smallest guy, and in this case, that fits the mold. I'm bothered by Isaiah Thomas, and I brought it up, I think to you yesterday when we talked about, Isaiah Thomas, talking about the Celtics and inferring that Brad Stevens, I think, has more of a grip on his team and coaches his team than Ty Lue does his team. That troubles me. Now, you're right about the Kevin Love thing. Yeah. Kevin Love is an easy target.
Right. He really is.
He's like rope-a-dope. I mean, he just stands on the rope in the corner on the ropes, and he just, boom, and he takes all the blows, and you'd like to see him deliver a few.
Right.
I'd like to see him deliver a few, because I don't think that he is all of the problems of the Cavaliers.
No,
right
I don't.
But
either.
I think that list is long of what the problems with the Cavaliers are.
Yeah, if you had said what was the biggest problem, Kevin Love not playing on Saturday wouldn't have been in my top 10, but it's there, and the fact that so quickly, probably 3-4 hours after the meeting was held, it got leaked to Adrian Wojnarowski. And details. Sometimes you can say, well, you've been around the Browns locker room long enough to know. I mean, players will have team meetings, and you may not hear too many details. You'll just hear, hey, we aired everything out. Baseball teams do it a lot
Always,
too.
yeah.
Players only meetings. We aired things out. But to have details of who was in the room and the fact that, Kevin Love had to, get up in front of his team, in front of his coach, in front of his general manager to defend himself. Wow, I'm like, that was a lot. And Adrian Wojnarowski is a good reporter, but somebody leaked a lot of stuff to him, and that would bother me, I think, if I were in that group, because what's supposed to happen in the house stays in the house.
Yeah, but this group has a lot of strong personalities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there have been a lot of guys on this team that when they were on other teams, they were the guy.
Yeah.
They're trying to. I mean, J.R. Smith was a guy at one point.
Right.
Dwayne Wade was a big guy. Wow. At a point. Derrick Rose was an MVP at one point. There are, and I'm not saying these were the guys that leaked the information, but you have a lot of big personalities, and you've got the biggest of them all. You have the biggest guy of them all, and that's LeBron. I mean, you've got a lot of, and now you have Isaiah Thomas. Right. I mean, you have a lot of huge personalities. So the fact that, stuff is getting out doesn't surprise me, but that is the danger of having, an older team that can talk about past glories and not present successes.
Yes.
Too many talks about, boy, this guy back in his day, but the day is now, right? It's Tuesday night. They're playing in San Antonio. Let's turn this thing around a little bit.
Yeah. Now, in addition to the game tonight with the Spurs, and by the way, congrats to Kevin Love. We did find out he was selected as a reserve. With everything else,
Imagine that.
5-time All-Star Kevin Love. So
now, will LeBron draft him?
Right. That's going to be the other thing. And if he doesn't draft him, what does that mean? Yeah, right. He doesn't want to play with him. All that stuff.
Let me just say this: General Hospital, a long-running soap opera about the everyday lives of all of us.
Yes.
I mean, General Hospital, Sonny, Carly, all of these people. We live our lives, or they bring our everyday lives. Sonny's, knocked off a lot people.
Right.
Hasn't served a day in jail. But General Hospital has nothing on the Cavs.
I mean, this is you couldn't write this stuff.
No.
You couldn't write this stuff.
That's right.
So in the backdrop of all this plus the game tonight, you've got trade rumors.
Yeah.
And, it's sounding like, Mark Stein first kind of let everybody know about it from the New York Times on Friday, Wojo talking about it today. It looks like at some point there's going to be a trade with Sacramento for George Hill.
31 years old.
The veteran, another veteran. And you're going to, apparently the deal is Shumpert and Fry in exchange for Hill. Might be a draft pick thrown in there. Now, the thing with George Hill, you're on the hook for him for 2 more years after this year. Next year, you're on the hook $19 million. You're paying max money for a guy I would say is a quality player, not an all-star player, but a quality player.
Yeah, it doesn't excite me. It
Yeah.
really doesn't excite me. I really miss Kyrie Irving and all his moods and his 50 personalities.
Yes.
But I really miss him. I mean, Dino, this thing really, there was a funny feel to this whole thing with the walk into this year when you walked out of last year and you lose the general manager, who obviously was the glue.
Yeah,
David.
I think we really
David
are
Griffin was the
learning
glue.
that.
Okay, David Griffin would have kept that meeting, short and sweet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yesterday, and I don't know that would have gotten out the way it gotten out, and I don't know if it even would have gotten to the point where you would have been allowed to call out a player like that in front of all of his teammates. That was the start of it, and then the Irving trade. Really, now you look back on it, and you just say to yourself, "Hey, listen, that should have been worked out."
Yes.
That you play, if you can be part of an absolutely, elite team that can punch a ticket to the NBA Finals, really at the start of training camp. And with Kyrie Irving, let's face it. I mean, they were a better team to do that. You have to be able to come in and iron that whole thing out. Right. So really, this thing, I'm not saying that it's been doomed since there, but it's had its pratfalls since that started. It didn't have a good feel the night that deal came together.
You know what? And I think about it now. When you talk about the where things went wrong, I can remember being at the airport when the Cavs came back from San Francisco, from Golden State after losing the finals. And, you know, the last guys off the plane were Ty Lue and David Griffin, and just trying to. I didn't have a good feeling even that time. It's like you just wonder if this is all going to get sorted out, and like a few days later, Griff's gone, and you're right, it's gone downhill since.
I think it has.
I really
do, and I just think that they're flailing away right now because they realize there's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of pressure to get this thing this year and to make this thing look very presentable. Obviously, not to George Hill and not to Kevin Love and not to Dwayne Wade, but to LeBron James.
Right.
That's the thing that's got them baffled right now.
Right.
Do they enter into a trade, and how much do they give up? And if you give up too much, and he's not going to be a part of your future at the end of the year, and that's the whole thing. I mean, once again,
because then you're stuck. Then you go back. Then you're back to the year before Kyrie got here. When your best player is Mo Williams or Baron Davis. I've gotten traded for
Ramon
Baron
Sessions.
Davis or Ramon Sessions.
Yeah, Ramon Sessions.
So you want to go back to that? That's where we're at now. Speaking of LeBron, tonight he needs just 7. Finally, I think he'll get it tonight. I can't guarantee it, but I think he'll get it tonight. He's ready to go for 30,000 points. He needs just 7, so you might get that done pretty quickly. Jimmy, he wrote a post on his Instagram essentially congratulating himself for getting to 30,000 points, which was a little bit weird, I guess.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, and you and I both watched him since he was in high school, the fact that he is at this point, considering all the pressure, the intense spotlight, the microscope, and everything, it's still it's still nothing short of amazing that he's here, and he'll be the youngest to get here to this point to 30,000.
Well, and I think, you take a look at it, and when you get a chance to watch greatness, you really have to appreciate it, okay? And I think that we have had, all levels of greatness watching him as a kid, and then as a kid coming into the NBA, and then as a kid who really grabbed a team and made them a great team, but they were too young to really to win at that point in time. But he got them to the finals, and then he left, and then he kind of grew up away from us, and we had to watch it from afar, and then he came back. People around football right now, whether you hate them or like them, but you have to respect, in a way, the greatness of what the Patriots are doing. To be able to dominate that sport in a salary cap era, and to be able to do it, the greatness of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and what they've been able to do is absolutely amazing. Likewise, the greatness of LeBron James is something that I think, we will all sit in rocking chairs. Me a lot earlier than a lot of you out there, but we will sit in rocking chairs and we'll tell stories about going down to the University of Akron with the buzz being, hey, you got to see this kid play, and he's going to play at the Jar because the Akron St. Vincent St. Mary gym is too small to accommodate the crowd. That was just an amazing thing to walk through. It really was. And the night they won the lottery to get him, it was just amazing. It was like they won the title that night.
Exactly. And
so I hope everybody appreciates
it. Just
he obviously does.
Yeah, and understand. It's since 2010, his teams have been in the finals every year since he rejoined the Cavs. 3 years. 3 runs to the NBA Finals, including 1 championship.
You're looking at
that's amazing.
Sure. You're looking at it in football with this Super Bowl run that these guys have had in New England. It really is amazing to watch. I watched it as a kid growing up in Boston. The Celtics won 9 out of 11 titles. Okay, and I had a greater appreciation. You get a little dulled by it. You get a little dulled by it. And I'm not feeling that we are dulled by it here in Cleveland. The winning. God knows. We waited long enough to get it. But I do hope that you appreciate it because he's going to be I think he's going to be right there with Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time. And in football, that's why. You can love them, you can hate them, but you have to say they are there. The Patriots are there.
Right. Yeah. They're about to play for a 6th Super Bowl in 12 days or whatever. It's amazing. With LeBron, it's funny. The coach I think he would have always loved to play for. He's always talked about wanting to play for Greg Popovich, or one of the coaches he's always really admired. Yeah. He'll get an opportunity tonight to get to that milestone, one of those career benchmark milestones in the house of Popovich, where he's had some of his best nights, some of his worst nights.
Yeah, that's right.
If you think about it, from some of those Spurs Heat finals, some of the Cavs Spurs finals.
One time, let me ask you a question. Wasn't there one time in the NBA Finals when the Spurs were playing the Heat, and LeBron was bigger at this time.
Yeah.
It was before he kind of went the Tom Brady route of dieting and doing all those having special diets. But do I not remember that he cramped up so severely, physically cramped up, that he had to come out of a game in the finals?
In the finals, I think it was.
And
like
I think
game
the air conditioning broke down in San Antonio. Yeah.
It was that was his last year in Miami. So I just think it's kind of it's sure would have loved to have had him do it at home, but he's a basketball historian. I think he'll appreciate doing it in front of Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs.
Right.
Jimmy, the Spurs have their own. I mean, the NBA yesterday was soap opera day. I mean, you had Ryan's Hope in Milwaukee, with Jason Kidd, All My Children in San Antonio, and General Hospital in the Cavs.
Right.
They're having their own issues with Kawhi Leonard, who feels like they're kind of disconnected. He's not going to play tonight. This is a tough place to play.
Yeah.
But it would go a long way. I don't know how everything got resolved. According to Wojo's tweet, some things got resolved after the meeting yesterday. But it would be huge for the Cavaliers to go down and get a victory in a real tough environment.
Well, it really would. And, I don't think they don't like losing. Okay,
right.
But they really don't like being embarrassed on national TV, and they have a little bit. I mean, Golden State really toyed with them, I thought, here.
Yeah.
And, that thing on Saturday afternoon was just abysmal.
Right.
I mean, that was awful. That was like Washington Generals stuff. And I played for the Generals.
That's right.
I played for the Generals one time. Against the Harlem Globetrotters.
Against the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, out at the old Coliseum.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I was amazed.
How have we not discussed that story on this show?
Yeah. Channel 3 became a big sponsor for the event.
And you got to play with the Generals.
I did, and I could not believe, but at halftime of the game, first of all, when you're the celebrity that they put in the game, they put you in, and then the Globetrotters foul you right away, so you go to the free throw line, and there were like 19,000 people there, and I airballed.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like Ollie in Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Although he hit, you will make the second.
You will make it after he makes his second shot, and you will make your second shot.
I was amazed that at halftime, you went into the locker room, and the Globetrotters, of course, are up by about 40 points, like the Thunder were on Saturday. Here's the thing, though. And the coach is yelling at the Generals, saying, but they're just following the script.
Come on. They're doing their job.
Right, yeah. But I, like Kevin Love, left at halftime.
Yes. All right. We've got a question that's coming on here on Facebook. Yeah, post your questions. We'll try to read them. From John. How do you guys feel about LeBron being labeled a drama queen by Charles Barkley? Now, John kind of agrees. John, I guess I don't disagree. There's enough stuff around LeBron where I think you can have that impression. I'm in the bag for him, as I always say, so it's fine with me. But
LeBron being critiqued by Charles Barkley is nothing.
No,
new. I mean, that's that happens. It's going to happen more. I think Charles Barkley came out last week and said he did not think the Cavaliers were going to make it to the NBA Finals, right? That they were not going to get out of the East. There's a lot of pizzazz on that show.
Right.
There's a lot of oomph, and there were other incidents with Charles and LeBron through the years. So it doesn't surprise me that Charles Barkley says that. And Charles Barkley says whatever he's feeling.
Right.
And I think a lot of people feel this.
Yeah,
I really do.
I do too.
Where there's smoke, there is some fire.
I do too. We have another question coming in again. Pop them up here on Facebook from Julie. How does a team win 13 in a row and then lose so many in such a measurable point difference? Something is definitely up.
Well, Julie, you're astute to that. Number one was during that winning streak, they played bad teams.
Yes.
Okay, they really did play bad teams. Now they're playing teams that all have winning records and could make the playoffs.
Right.
They're in a stretch, where they're going to play much more difficult teams. But you bring up a very good point. The point difference is astounding. And to me, when you're losing by that much and giving up the amount of points that they're giving up, that's effort.
Yeah.
And really lack of.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed it was like I think it was last week or the week before when they had like 3 games in a row where they gave up at least 125 points. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not how it's supposed to be. I'm with you. I'll take a loss, but don't get embarrassed and don't allow a team to get 125 points. That's crazy. That's like 35 points a quarter or whatever.
Right.
I think we have one more question for Jimmy and I. Somebody wants to know, and this goes back to what you said, I think, at the start, talking about Isaiah Thomas. Has he ruined this team's chemistry, or does he ruin a team's chemistry?
Well, in the past, he has.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been, if you follow his career, he has been a bit of a complainer.
Right.
Now, he plays with a natural chip on his shoulder, and that chip is not far off the floor because he's 5'8", okay? But, I mean, he does. He plays with that chip on it. Hey, listen, you all didn't, he plays that way. You all didn't select me. You overlooked me, and look at me now. Look at me now. But I even think he was a little bit of a, I think he could be a sharp knife in the Celtic locker room, too, last year. I just think that, but at that point, it really was becoming, the Celtics were so young at that point, that it really was becoming his team. Mm-hmm. And then I think he just got walloped by the fact that he thought not only was he going to be a Celtic, but he was going to get a big payday from the Celtics, and they traded him.
Right.
And I think he was just incensed. I think that there is evidence in his past that he can be a bit of a squawker.
Right.
Yeah. Do you agree?
I completely agree. And this is going to be now, interesting. Everybody had a chance to empty the, get everything off their chests and say what they wanted to say. Let's see if some guys back it up tonight and going forward, or if we see more trades like the one that Adrian Wojnarowski's talking about here with George Hill, if that indeed comes to pass. Jimmy, you'll have highlights of the game tonight on Channel 3 News at 11. Hopefully highlights. We've got a bunch of stories ready to go as soon as LeBron gets to 30,000 points. Matt Florjancic, Ben Axelrod, Tyler Carey, yours truly. We all have things ready to post, so I'll be watching Facebook and WKYC tonight as we continue to watch LeBron as he goes for the 30,000-point milestone. All right, David Herbertson, good to have you back with us. You can just wave. Yeah, good to see you, buddy. And for Jim Donovan, I'm Dave DiNatale. Thanks so much for watching the WKYC Donovan Live postgame show here on Facebook Live.